This is the Zeekr 7X, Privilege in Stealth Grey, and it's time to see how it really stacks up against its toughest competition. And it's time for some detailed testing. We're gonna test range, consumption, cabin noise, and charging. Welcome to It's Only Electric. Let's start with some basic facts.
It's only electric.
It's a mid-size premium SUV with a total length of 4.8 meters and a wheelbase of 2.9. It's a heavy car, so it weighs 2,460 kilograms, partly due to its big battery pack with a gross capacity of 100 kilowatt hours and a net capacity of 96. It's a NMC pack. The Privilege version is all-wheel drive, so it comes with two synchronous permanent magnet motors with a total output of 630 horsepower, 470 kilowatts or 710 newton-meters of torque. It does 0 to 100 in 3.8 seconds with a top speed of 210 kilometers per hour. So it's running on the Privilege 21-inch wheels, unstaggered setup, so 265/40 all around, Continental Eco Contact 7 tires. It is a fairly slippery car with a low drag coefficient of 0.246, so it's slightly lower than competitors like the BMW iX and the Mercedes-Benz EQE SUV. But at the same time, it's higher than cars like the Tesla Model Y. Premium cars needs premium features like an automatic charge port, but also automatic doors in all 4 positions. And I mean, this can be seen as unnecessary features, but when you get used to it, it's really nice, and I love the automatic doors. Of course, also the automatic charge ports. So back to the charging. This is probably the best charging car available on the European market today, because DC charging, 800 volts, the top speed of 480 kilowatts. 10 to 80% in lower than 16 minutes. We will test that. Can we find a fast enough charger, and can we beat those 16 minutes, or at least reach those 60 minutes? Let's see about that later in this video. Home charging, also impressive, 22 kilowatts 3-phase support. So really good charge specs. And what about the efficiency? I mean, it's heavy. Chinese cars has the reputation of being inefficient. Does that go for the Zeekr 7X too? Or have they fixed that? Have they worked on the efficiency of the car? I'm really excited to test that out. What range will we really achieve? Is the 543 kilometers reachable or not? Let's start the range and consumption test. So this is the first part of the range and consumption test. It's the mixed track, consists of mixed speeds, so all the way down from 50 kilometers per hour up to 110. Average speed 93 kilometers per hour, and it's a track that's 80 kilometers long, always the same one. And I stick to a set of rules, 3 main rules, where keeping to the speed limits is the first rule. The second one is to set the AC to auto and 20 degrees Celsius. In this case, Eco is active because that's available. And the last rule is to set the car to Eco mode, the drive mode. There is nothing called Eco in this case, which means that I set the acceleration to comfort. The region is set to strong, and air suspension is actually lowered and set to low to minimize the drag. So hopefully we will meet the right driving conditions, and current temperature is 28 degrees Celsius and totally dry roads, no wind, really good conditions. And I mean, for you guys that have watched all my videos, you probably know that The Zeekr 7X is one of my favorite cars in this segment, so I'm really hoping for a low consumption, because efficiency has really not been Zeekr's main game. Maybe that will change, hopefully, with the 7X, because I know that they have worked on, the engineers have worked on the optimal factors for optimizing the overall consumption. So hopefully that will show some effect and help us out gaining some range. As a standard, the 7X comes with the autopilot functionalities and self-driving capabilities, or drive assist systems, and it has the function for auto lane change. So if you turn that on in the menu, currently it seems to not be able to save that, because every time I restart the car it seems to like reset the auto lane change assist setting here. That's a bit annoying because I always want it on, and I therefore need to reactivate it every single time. Hopefully they will fix that in the software soon, because it feels like a clear bug here. You activate the drive assist LCC function by double tapping the right lever. So LCC activated, and to switch the lane, you activate you signal to the left in this case, and it changes the lane for you. It's a pretty neat function, and in most of the cases it works really well, especially if you compare it to cars like the Polestar and the Volvo EX90. And when I say Polestar, I mean Polestar 3, the SPA2 platform, because it works better in the Polestar 4. So it seems like Zeekr's own software works better than Volvo's does when it comes to self-driving capabilities. And it keeps me very steady in the lane. On the left side we have the self-driving functions on the steering wheel. You decrease and increase the speed. You can decrease and increase the space in between you and the cars in front of you. And you have the activation of the 360 camera and the voice assistant. To the right we have the media controls, toggle songs. You have a rocker for the volume. You have a shortcut. If you long press that one, you can set it to your favorite functions. I've set it to switching acceleration mode. And underneath that you have a menu switcher, so we can toggle the sub menus on the instrument cluster. Now currently it's set to trip number 1. That shows me the consumption for this specific trip. And after 15 minutes of driving 18 kilometers, sorry, we have an average consumption of 20 kilometers per 100 kilometers straight. So 20.0. Let's see what this ends up at, because the car is brand new. I mean, it's doesn't even have 600 kilometers on the odometer, 574 to be more exact. So the tires are not really warmed up, worn in, and I guess some of the bearings, etc., still needs to be like get some more rolling to lower some of the resistance. So to the mandatory information or instruction, and that's how to turn off the speed limit chimes. That's the chimes. So 4 chimes if you keep a speed or a pace like 2 or 3 kilometers over the speed limit. After a certain set of seconds it starts beeping, and the best way to turn it off is to put it as a shortcut. So when you swipe from the top of the screen, you have something called over speed alert, and you turn it off. And as you hear now, the beeping has stopped, because I think the beeping is a bit too annoying compared to some cars. Just hitting the halfway, 40 kilometers past, average consumption 16.8 kilometers per 100 kilometers. That's a good number. That is lower than expected. It is not Tesla numbers, it is more towards MEB platform numbers, maybe slightly higher. I mean, the conditions are great. But I have been driving the car for a week or a couple of days, and it is surprisingly efficient. I was expecting higher consumptions. So let's see how this ends up. It's time to summarize the range and consumption test. First out is the 80 kilometer stretch with average speed of 93 kilometers per hour. Average consumption ended up at 16.6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. And the car actually under-reports the distance by 1.8%. So 16.6 is with that in mind. So that equals to a total range of 578 kilometers. 578, that's 106% of the stated WLTP range of 543 kilometers. So almost 30 kilometers more than the stated WLTP range. I think that's the first time I score 106%. I've had one or two cars above 100%, but 106, that's probably the record. And the outside temperature was 28 degrees. Totally dry roads, no wind. So probably the best achievable result. I mean, perfect conditions in every single way. And when it comes to the high speed test, the 120 kilometers per hour straight motorway test, I test it on the same way, same route all the time, and I keep a constant speed, and I measure the speed with the GPS. So 120 on the GPS equals 119 on the odometer or the speedometer. So it actually underreports the speed by 1 kilometers per hour. That's pretty unusual. Normally it's the other way around. But still, the consumption ended up at 22 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. That's impressive. I mean, it's not Tesla numbers, but if I compare it to the Volvo EX90, that has 28. If I compare it to like the Polestar 3, I think it was 26. And it's the same as many small cars. So for instance, the Renault 5 scored the exact same consumption. The Hyundai Inster, 21.5, so a bit lower, and also very close to the MEB platform, and that's the latest car that tested in the similar conditions was the facelifted Skoda Enyaq that also scored like 21.5. So very impressive numbers, and this equals to a full range of 436 kilometers. And that's good because it's 80% of the stated WLTP range. It doesn't come close to a Tesla because the Tesla has below 20, but still really impressive. I didn't expect it to be that low. Probably it has to do with aerodynamics. It's a slippery car and doesn't seem to drag that much more energy in higher speeds than in lower speeds, so that's good to see. Other things is like smart software, because for instance, after 6 or 7 minutes of drive, it turns off the passenger side AC. It also turns off the AC in the back seat. So sensors and software is really working good together to be able to like lower the energy consumption. Another very important aspect is that the 7X actually decouples the front motor when not needed. So that means that in 90% of the times, it only uses the rear motor. And that's a clever way of doing this. One downside though that I discovered during my drive, I set the AC to eco, but even when I don't do that and it's really sunny outside, the glass roof tends to emit a lot of heat because it's not that tinted. So a pro tip is to cover the roof with the sunshade to preserve some energy, but also achieve a better interior temperature, a bit colder interior, because if you have that open, it will get hot and the AC will struggle, especially if you set it to the eco mode, because it's a big glass roof and without that tinting, it is not that energy efficient. So let's move on to the cabin noise. To be clear, the Zeekr 7X is not the most silent car I have tested. But what we do when we test and measure the noise is that we place a microphone in head height on the passenger side. We always drive the same kind of roads, the exact same trip. So we measure noise in different speeds, 50, 70, 90, and 110 kilometers per hour. And this is the final result. And as you see, this is not the most silent car on the market. It's more silent than a Model Y. It is on par with the new facelifted Skoda Enyaq. It is not close to cars like the Xpeng G9 or the Mercedes EQE SUV. Those are still a lot more silent. But keep in mind that those were tested on winter tires, so studless friction tires. They tend to be a bit more silent. And this one is still running on the 21-inch sport rims. So if you go for a lighter setup with smaller wheels, the 20-inch or 19-inch, you will probably end up with a more silent car. And also bear in mind that the car is totally new. So I have like driven it for 500 kilometers when I did the noise test. So the tires are not worn in. They will get a bit more silent after a while. So I may be redoing a test later on and see if it gets more silent. Other things that's good to know is that it was totally dry roads, 16 degrees outside, and I did run the test with the curtain closed to remove some of the noise replication in the cabin. And that's what I do with all cars. So if it's possible to close the glass roof, I do that. I cover it every time because that's part of the standard. So let's move on to the last but not least thing. I think this is maybe the most interesting part, and that's charging. And I was really looking for the fastest charger available. And I mean, it's hard to find chargers over 300 kilowatts, to be honest. 800 volt. That's still a quick charger. But I actually found a 400 kilowatt charger, and I did charge on it alone. Impressively, the total charge time, 10 to 80%, took 14 minutes and 15 seconds. So that's almost 2 minutes lower than the stated 10 to 80% time. That's a lot. I mean, 60 minutes is amazing. 14 minutes, I mean, that's sick. So if you find a 500 kilowatt charger, you'll probably cut that time with another minute. So I think you will be able to achieve 13 minutes when you find the right charger. Top speed, 399 kilowatts. I mean, I almost killed the charger. I mean, the car really maxed out the charger, and the charger really had a hard time to put that power out. And the charge curve is really good. It kept that speed for like between 10 to 20% or something like that. And the end charge speed was 216 kilowatts. So at 80%, it actually takes in 216 kilowatts. That's a lot of power. So impressive charge curve. Here you have it. And you know what? This is like so quick that you almost don't need any shorter charge times now, because you will be able to plug it in, go to the restroom, grab a coffee, and then more or less the car is already ready for continuing the trip, because you don't charge it to 80% every time. I mean, sometimes you probably only charge it from 10 to 50 and charge the rest at home or at work. And then we are talking about like a 5-minute long stop. So you don't even have time to visit the restroom. This is the new thing. Charging is not an issue anymore as long as you find a good charger. And the charging network is constantly growing, constantly getting better and evolving. And with the 7X, you will really have a car that's future-proof. And you can see that when looking at other brands. For instance, Mercedes, they are moving over to 800 volt. If you look at the new CLA car, it won't even support 400 volt in Europe. It only comes with 800 volt. I think it will be able to like equip with kind of onboard converter, so you can charge it on a 400 volt charger, but that's extra. But as a standard, only 800 volt. And I think more manufacturers will do the same thing. if you look at BMW, they're also moving over to 800 volts. So everyone is going for 800 volt. So the charging network will for sure be 800 volt from now on. And I also think that it's only a matter of time before Tesla actually activates up to 1000 volt support on their charging network, because they have the capability of doing that. So it's just a matter of time. So that was the range, consumption, cabin noise and charge test of the Zeekr 7X. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'm actually planning to do more detailed videos about the 7X. Because do you know what? This is actually my own car. So this is my replacement of my older Tesla Model Y Performance that I recently sold. So it's here for a while now, and I have the opportunity to do some detailed testing, some detailed deep dives. So please share your thoughts, ask me questions about the car, but also give me ideas of what you want me to cover and what you want to know about the 7X as such. And please subscribe, engage, and like. And as I always say, stay electric. Thank you for watching. Speak to you soon.